Hello everybody, my name is Helen and today I have my Boxing Day book haul for you. I realized I just posted a book haul a few days ago. My Boxing Day books came in, so obviously I have to record another one. For those of you who don't know, Bookoutlet has like this huge Boxing Day sale that they do every year, and this year I actually bought books from it. I've avoided doing that the last few years, but this year apparently I couldn't do it anymore. I ended up with 19 books. Let's just get into this, yeah? So the first book that I have here is Hemlock by Kathleen Peacock, and this is the story of a girl named Mac and her best friend Amy, and Amy is killed by a white werewolf. Amy is actually haunting Mac in her dreams, so Mac is trying to figure out why Amy is haunting her, why this extremist group is coming after them, and what they can do about the werewolves in their town. I haven't read a whole lot of werewolf books, but I've heard great things about this series and I've been wanting to read it for a really long time. The next book that I got is Between the Lines by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. Explosion just recently read off the page. This is the story of a girl who loves to read and is completely in love with the main character of her story, and the main character is actually in love with her as well. I think that's what this is. It's basically a book lover's dream. So I'm really hoping that this ends up being as good as I hope it will be, because I want to live vicariously through this book while I'm reading it. And just imagine that this is me in several characters from several books. I also got Etiquette and Espionage, which is the first book in the Finishing School series by Gail Carringer. I have the first book of her series Soulless as well, but I haven't read it yet. But this just sounds like such a cool book. It's a finishing school for spies. It's a finishing school for young ladies who are spies. So they still learn etiquette and poise and all that kind of stuff, but they also learn spy skills, which just sounds super, super cool. And I want to read this. The next book that I have here is An Elephant in the Garden by Michael Morpurgo, and this is based on a true story. I hadn't heard anything about this book, but I looked it up on Goodreads, and it has, like, amazing ratings and reviews. It's about a family. Their mom works at a zoo, and there's an elephant named Marlene, and the zoo is, they're thinking, going to be bombed. And this elephant that is at the zoo has bonded with the mom's two kids, and so she convinces the zookeeper to let her take the elephant and keep the elephant safe in their garden. But their home ends up being bombed instead of the zoo, and while the elephant and everyone survives, they now have to make a trek all around trying to find someplace safe with an elephant in tow, and they're still trying to keep hidden from the Russians. And for the second time on Bookoutlet, I've bought a book that I don't have any other things for. So I got In the Age of Love and Chocolate by Gabrielle Zevin, who I've heard amazing things about in general, and I really wanted to read one of her books, and this was there for cheap, but it's the third book in a trilogy, and I don't have the rest of the trilogies, so now I have to try and find them. The next book that I have is one that is really, really interesting to me, although it may not be to other people. It's called Hurricane Dancers by Margarita Engel, and it's a story about the first Caribbean pirate shipwreck. And I got this because I love pirates, and I always want to read more pirate books. But I found out when it got here, I did not know this when I ordered it, that it's actually told in verse, and it's already a pretty thin book, so I think I'm going to read this really soon and just like truck through it because it looks like it's not going to take very long. The next book that I have here is one that I'm actually really happy to have found on Bookoutlet, and it's Mask of the Red Death by Bethany Griffin. From what I can tell from the back of this book, it is about a city where a plague has decimated people in the place, and the main character just loves going to the debauchery club and wearing makeup and dresses and trying to have a good time. But when she meets proprietor of the club that she's going to all the time, then things get kind of interesting. So I've never really heard a whole lot about it, but the cover is gorgeous, and I really want to read it. The next book that I have is Sweetly by Jackson Pierce, which is the second book of her fairy tale retellings, and I read Sisters Red not too long ago. Really, really, really liked it, and I picked up Cold Spell. I haven't read it yet, like I just have it, but I didn't want to read it until I read Sweetly, and so now I have it, and the only one I'm missing is Fathomless, and yay! This book is a retelling of Hansel and Gretel, and it's supposed to be amazing. It sounds fantastic. It's about Ansel and Gretchen's sister disappeared into the woods years ago and they never found her, and now they've moved and they're staying with this confectionist, but someone in town kind of knows what's up. The next book that I have is one that is really long overdue for me to pick up and attempt to read, and it is Lux Beginnings by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this has Obsidian and Onyx, which are the first two books in the Obsidian series, or the Lux series, and I really hate this bind-up. I see it in person and it's even worse than it is on camera. It's so shimmery. The next book that I have is one that's actually, again, I'm really excited about a lot of these books in this haul, but there are a couple that are just a little bit more, and this is one of them. And it's Everybody Sees the Ants by A.S. King. I read Please Ignore Your Deets by A.S. King not too long ago and absolutely loved it. And I own Ask the Passengers. Now I have Everybody Sees the Ants, and I may or may not have another of her books in my haul. You'll have to wait and see. And this book is about a kid named Lucky who is bullied pretty extensively, and he gets really upset about it. But what helps him cope is that every time he goes into his dreams, he's in a war-torn zone of Laos with his grandfather and fighting in the Vietnam War. The next book that I have is a book that just sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, and that is Red by Allison Cherry. And this is about a town, in particular a high school, where having red hair is kind of a huge deal. And there's a girl who has been popular for a very long time. She's on track to win this pageant, and she gets a letter telling someone that she knows her secret. And because she hears that, she's terrified because she's not a natural redhead. Her hair color comes out of a bottle. So the next book that I have here is one that I've seen on Bookoutlet a lot and always thought about buying and just never did. And this time I finally committed to it. And that's Tumble and Fall by Alexandra Coutts. And this is a dystopian type novel where the Earth is going to be destroyed in about 1 week's time by an asteroid named Persephone. And there's 3 characters that we follow in here and everything that they're going to do within that week, because the asteroid cannot be stopped and its path cannot be altered. The next book that I have here is Wintertown by Stephen Emond, and I don't really know a whole lot of what this is about, but Ariel from Ariel Bassett absolutely loves this. A lot of people have been picking it up lately, and I just found out that it has art in it, which is pretty exciting. The next book that I have is Midwinter Blood by Marcus Sedgwick, and I don't know a whole lot about this. I know it takes place from a few different perspectives, all about like the same time or the same area or something like that. Reagan from Peru's Project absolutely raves about this book and Marcus Sedgwick in general, and I've been trying to get my hands on this book ever since she read it and raved about it. So now that I have it, I can read it. And the next book that I have is one of the few scratch and dent books that I got, and you'll be able to tell it's scratch and dent. This is Burial Rites by Hannah Kent, and there's the spine on that. All I know is that this has to do with, I think it was the last witch hanging in Iceland. I could be totally wrong. The last execution that took place in Iceland, and I've heard amazing things about this book. It's supposed to be heartfelt and just really well written and heartbreaking at the same time. The next book that I have is in fact another A.S. King book, and it's Reality Boy by A.S. King. And this is the story of a boy in high school, and when he was young, his family was on reality television, and so it's all the repercussions of that and how he's dealing with it now for being recognized from it. The next book that I have is one that is a stunning book and just sounds really weird and creepy, and it's Marina by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, who is the author of The Shadow of the Wind, and this is a gothic book, and it's about a kid named Oscar who meets a woman named Marina, and they go and witness a ritual that is happening at the last Sunday of every month, and then things kind of start happening after that. And it sounded already kind of creepy from that, but what actually sold me on it was this little thing on the back here. We all have a secret buried under lock and key in the attic of our soul, and this is mine. The next book that I have is insanely heavy. Holy crap. It is Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld, which came out last year, I think, and it's the story of a girl who's trying to get her novel published and her journey, and at the same time we get to see how the things that happen to her affect her writing through the characters of her story. And I've heard amazing things about this. It's supposed to be great. I seriously can't get over how heavy this book is. Holy crap, I need to put it down. And the last book that I have in this haul today is Elusive by Emily Lloyd Jones. And this is the story of a place where a virus wreaked havoc and there was a vaccine created, but a small percentage of the people who took this vaccine developed superhero-like powers. And we follow one particular girl who has the power to turn invisible, I believe, and she has turned to a life of crime to survive. I haven't heard a whole lot about this book. I don't know a whole lot about this book. All I know is that Emma from Emma Books loves it, and I want to read it because of that. These are all of the books that I got from the Bookoutlet Boxing Day sale. Did you guys get any books? If so, what did you get? And have you read any of the books that I mentioned in this haul today? If so, what did you think about them? Let me know in the comments down below. I do respond to every comment on my videos, and I absolutely love hearing from you. And I will see you soon with a new video.